How y'all doing tonight? What's up? How you doing? I brought my little purse here. Welcome to Manny's at the City Arts and Lecture stage. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Gershon, I'm going to throw this to you. Very good. I'm going to start with some thank yous. I want to thank our sponsors tonight, the Mayfield Fund. I want to thank Ghazi and Empire Records and Gap. Those three sponsors have helped make tonight possible. Thank you guys so much. The conversation you're about to hear, it's going to be fun, fascinating, exciting, but it's also the result of a lot of work of a lot of people. So I want to thank the people here at City Arts and Lectures, Stacy Horn and Molly from my team, and all the people that got involved to make it happen. And you all, thank you for buying tickets and spending your Monday night here to hear about leadership and innovation in San Francisco. Thank you for giving us your time and your attention. And before we actually get into the meat of things, I have a very special guest who's going to give you a welcome that only he can give you. So please join me in welcoming the amazing mayor of San Francisco, Daniel Lurie.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. All right, that's enough. Okay. Thank you, Ghazi. The last time I was on this stage, Manny was grilling me. That's a story for another day. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to be very brief. And I'm just going to say this. I have the honor of being the mayor of the greatest city in the world. And I never lose that. I never lose that. I was just in my office in this beautiful building, and I walked over here, and I saw all of you pouring in to listen to a conversation that can only happen in San Francisco. These two that you're about to hear from tonight, they didn't travel in. They're not on a book tour. They live here. They work here. They care deeply about this city. I've had many conversations with Sam and OpenAI. I know that they are committed to San Francisco, and they just re-upped, and they said they're not going anywhere. So that's good news for the state. Woo! And I know that Sam knows that he has a responsibility and an obligation to our city, and he reiterates that in public and in private. And then you have the greatest coach, I think, that has ever graced the game. And here's what you really should know about him. He is a better person than he is a basketball coach. And he is, I told him a few minutes ago, this guy is a consummate gentleman. I went to an event that he asked me to come to. There was 15, 20 people who were talking about gun control and how do we keep people safe. This coach, who has a lot going on in his life, he wrote a handwritten thank you note to me. And that doesn't happen anymore. So if the one thing I'm taking away is I'm writing more handwritten thank you notes. Now, you have an amazing interviewer in Manny, who I love, and you're going to have an amazing night. And one more thing. Let's go San Francisco. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Manny.
How you guys doing? I have a prop for you for this first question. This is Sam Altman, and this is Coach Kerr. And I'm Manny. I'm so excited to get into this conversation. It's going to go in a lot of places, and I'm excited to see where it goes. The inspiration for this was I went to a conference many years ago that you probably were at. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, go ahead. Will you help?
Thank you. A subpoena for Sam Altman.
No, can you take him off the stage? Thank you. Uh,
Thank you.
wow, getting off to a dramatic start already. Holy moly. Well, this is very apropos of the first question I'm going to ask you, Steve, which is, I need a pep talk. Can you give it to me? And now I definitely need a pep talk. So
You're doing great. You're doing great.
I feel like we all kind of need Coach Kerr to like give us the pep talk that we need. If you have like one word of like uplifting hope and inspiration to begin this night as a coach, if you were my coach.
Well, is Steph Curry here so I can throw him the ball, or no? You actually need advice. Advice.
Just like a spring of hope, I guess.
Spring of hope.
Yeah. When you're in the locker room and you're about to go out for a game, is there like a thing that you say to pump people up and give them a little?
You know, we have 82 games a year.
Okay.
And if I started giving, motivational speeches before every single game, the guys would be like, "All right, coach, enough. Let's just, get to the game." So there's really not a lot of that. It's more everyday interaction. We're a family. We have really strong relationships. There's a lot of emotion, winning and losing, and a lot of ups and downs, but we've got an amazing group of people, and we know that our job is to get through the tough stuff, the adversity, because it's always there.
Do you guys know each other? Have you spent any time together? Is this like the first meet cute?
We just hung out for like 10
Yes.
minutes. It was great.
But other than tonight in the green room? No, okay.
By the way, what do you do for a living, Sam? I forgot to ask you that. Yeah.
There was this very funny thing happening backstage where there was like a small number of people that asked Coach Kerr to please scooch over to the side so they can get a picture just with Sam and vice versa. Do you use ChatGPT at all?
I have used it, yeah.
Can you recall the last time you used it?
You know what? I actually used it for a medical question, and it was amazing because it's like you could just have 10 doctors all together at once collaborating and sort of. It was actually stunning, and it's the first time I've really used it for anything other than basketball. We use it a little bit in basketball, but more in our front office, organizationally. They use it for predicting players that they're thinking about drafting or trading for. We have used it in player development. We have basically cameras and a whole setup in our gym where we track every single shot every player takes. So player walks in, facial recognition, guys start shooting. At the end of the month, I have a chart of, every player has taken this many shots, this is how many he made. This was the arc, because we're interested in the technique and the process of the shot, and so it records everything. It records the depth of the shot, the arc of the shot, and then we can, we have all these graphs and charts to show where they're missing, where their spots on the floor, but also are they missing long? Are they missing short?
And you use ChatGPT to kind of sum all that up?
No, we use a system called NOAA that is, yeah.
That's okay. We don't play basketball.
Yeah.
And you, my friend, are you a sports ball lover?
I like watching. I cannot play basketball
do you
at all.
like basketball? You go to the games
We do
and
go, yeah.
watch them do their thing?
It's very fun.
Okay, good. Great, basketball, I love it.
Actually, there's an interesting thing we were talking about backstage, which is like how much the intensity of sports and just the pace of sports has increased over the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
And when you watch old, like, vintage sports, not even that old, like 20 or 30 years ago, it looks like a
Different
slow motion.
Yeah, different.
It's amazing what's happened. So the last game I was at, I was like, the athleticism is so unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like there's more energy in them, or there's
Just
more?
they move so fast.
Is that true? You were a player a long time ago.
Yeah. Trust me, it's
Were you
very,
slower
very true.
then?
Very true. No, I'm glad. I'm glad I played when I did because it was easier then. It was. I mean, it's the sport, the athletes in every sport. I was telling Sam that, like, if you watch a replay of the U.S. Open in the mid '80s between John McEnroe and Bjorn Borg, do you know who those guys are?
I don't,
Okay.
Bjorn, I don't know him.
So
I was hoping you would not ask me that, but
they were the
are
greatest.
they well-known people, these people? No, okay.
They were the greatest tennis players.
He's trying to get you
of
guys
their
to turn
time.
against me right now.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
But if you put their match,
Bjorn
and John,
yeah.
next to Nadal, Rafael Nadal. Have you heard of him?
That's a different sport.
No, same sport.
No,
Anyway,
I thought we were talking about basketball.
well,
No?
so
Did
anyway,
you know that?
I
so
Oh my
let
God.
me finish my metaphor.
Oh God.
If you watched Borg and McEnroe from 40 years ago, and you watched, Nadal and Djokovic today, it's like a different sport. It looks like Borg and McEnroe are rallying back and forth, just like on a Sunday afternoon at the park. The same thing has happened in every sport. The athletes are bigger, stronger, faster. We have more knowledge. We have better training techniques. We have more coaching. And I was telling Sam that I actually told our team today that I feel like the NBA is starting to change at the rate of technology, like AI. It's like the game is so different now from when I started 11 years ago, and it's and you were saying that's kind of everything, right? Everything is changing rapidly.
Do you think it's the technology that's part of that change?
It's part of it, yeah, and it's definitely a part. At the analytics that we use that go into our strategy are dramatically different now, but also the training methods and the knowledge that we have, athletes knowing how to take care of their bodies now, it's very different.
You.
Yes.
I would like to move away from sports knowledge, for my own survival on this stage. I've been able to watch you from the very beginning start this thing and then create it, and it's been amazing to watch. And I guess I was wondering at the beginning of this, like, what is the end goal? Like, you've had a lot of things happen in the last few weeks and months. There've been a lot of releases. Like, what is the kind of grand plan with OpenAI?
I don't think there is an end goal. It's like if you zoom out enough, it's like one smooth exponential. Not just our company, but the whole, like all of AI, the entire tech industry, the whole like progress of society. It's always tempting to say like, okay, we get to that point and we're done. The season's over, we get to go home and rest. But then there's the next season and the next one and the next one. And I think it's just going to keep going like that. I used to think that there would be a moment where AI would get so good that it would be able to like design future versions and this thing they call recursive self-improvement. And I think that still will happen, but I somehow think the story is going to be much more complicated, and the company people are going to have to keep working very hard still.
Mm-hmm. And how are you holding on while this is all happening? I mean, the fact that it's not ending, that there really isn't an end in sight, how are you staying grounded?
I think one of the most amazing things about people is you can kind of get used to anything. And that is a remarkable thing, good or bad, our ability to just sort of say like, okay, this seems like it would have been really hard or seems like it would have been really strange, and I've just gotten used to it, and it's life now, and I'm going to keep doing my thing. I have always been impressed by the general ability of people to do that.
Steve, I was wondering about this. I have a twofer for you. One specifically about the Warriors. See, now moving back into sports. What do you think is the secret of the Warriors' success? Why has it been so successful? And second, and this is a little bit more of an esoteric question, I feel like sports, more than government and politics, has become something that is so core to people's sense of cultural identity and their connection to physical place. And I was wondering if you could try to answer the question of why. Why is it so much more than just a game for people, and why has it become part of people's identity?
Yeah. So, first part of the question.
Secret to success.
Secret of success.
For a friend.
When I say Steph Curry, I don't mean it as like a joke. Like, we are successful because of Steph Curry. Like, let's just lay that out there. Okay. I was lucky to play with Michael Jordan in Chicago. Have you heard of him?
I've heard of him.
All right, good.
I know that one.
Way to go, Manny.
He was with Rafael Nadal, the two of them together.
Basketball is very interesting. It's a star-driven sport, but it's not just the talent. It's people like Steph or Michael Jordan. There's something magical about them. It's the talent, but it's the humanity. It's the transcendent presence that they have, and that's just a connection with people, right? You can't. It's hard to define it, but Steph has this magic, and the way he plays. First of all, he kind of looks like, you could actually, like we could actually become Steph Curry, right? Like none of us could become LeBron James, right?
No.
But every little kid in the Bay Area can kind of look at Steph and go, well, I could do that, from a physical stature standpoint. He looks like he could be your neighbor, but he happens to be the guy with the greatest hand-eye coordination on earth and an insane work ethic and an incredible sense of perspective and humanity. And so my job is so much easier as the coach of the team because he and I collaborate and we are together as we lead the group. And he makes it easy, but he's magical. He really is.
I feel like you're probably underselling your role a little bit, but I know that he's a very good player. So I just keep digging the hole deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, you mentioned it about kind of your role in the team and how, you have a player who's an amazing talent, and I'm sure you too, Sam, you have a lot of amazing engineers and people who've probably best of the best. Talk about, both of you, how you've been able to build and nurture these teams to be winning teams, because you both have had to create these organisms that have to perform excellently in some of the most competitive environments that exist, and you've excelled at them. You've built winning teams. So how have you done that, and how do you nurture those teams now to make sure that they stay on top?
I was very struck by Coach Kerr's comments because I think for AI research, which is different than a company, it really has also been like the culture matters a lot, and if you build a great culture, I think that can help you win over a long period of time. But stars, in the same way that it's not just what the one person can do, but the impact they have on the rest of the team, like these sort of people that a team can sort of rotate around. Are unbelievably important. That to me was one of the most surprising things about learning how to build a research culture is these small number of stars have this 1,000x impact, and that's very different than when you're trying to build a normal technology company. So a lot fewer people know the name like Alec Radford or something than Steph Curry, but he's an equivalent.
And
in my world.
Who is he?
He's the researcher that invented what became the GPT-1 and then onward to the whole series.
And did you see something in him and bring him in?
Yeah, anyone who met him would say all right, it's obvious that this guy is just smarter than everybody else, but also insane work ethic, really obsessed with understanding systems and details, but also someone that everybody else just does better work because they're around, and sort of just sort of incredible energy that impacts an entire research organization around them. So, yeah, I think the stars of research have really mattered in AI. And then the culture of the kind of people that have scientific rigor, good camaraderie, the ability to sort of push towards repeatable innovation. Good research culture is very rare. I think it's rare in general. It's been rare in AI, but it's unfortunately just been rare in the world. And it took us a long time to learn how to build a good research culture, but I think at this point that's been one of our most important advantages.
What, if you were to build a hotel lobby in the style of a very, very strong research culture, what music is playing? What's the what is the decoration like? Tell me about the lighting.
I have no idea.
Well, you said it's hard
these
to
are
build.
not the kind of people that hang out in hotel lobbies.
Okay. Where are they? What is research culture?
One thing that we did that I think was very good. This was one of those decisions that, in retrospect, turned out to be important. We've now moved into a bigger building, but our longtime office the architects that built it were residential architects, not office architects, and our office felt like someone's like really nice house.
Very strong plant game.
Yeah, there is a very strong plant game, and like like furniture, like people could just like sit on a couch and work all day, and there's like good places to like have coffee and just stare at a wall, and I think that was like surprisingly important. It was definitely not a hotel lobby vibe, but it was like very comfortable, very casual.
Okay, and what is like an ideal basketball team culture vibe? I'm gonna ask you the same question.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not a rehearsed question, but I want to know, like, if you're creating space for your team to have a strong culture, what is that space like, and how have you built that culture?
Well, it depends on the leaders. The leaders have to establish what that culture is, and the culture really is just the values that you espouse coming alive every day. And when the players and the people who work for the team in the training staff and the front office and the scout, when they come into the building, there should be a vibe in the building. But that vibe is going to be a little different depending on who the leaders are, right? And so what I learned playing for some of the great coaches of all time, Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich, and there's just a vibe based on their personalities, but it was authentic to them. And so I wanted our culture to be authentic to me, to my values and what I stand for. And it just so happened that Steph and I share a lot of the same values. And so, for example, joy is one of our values. We want to feel joy every day. You can't fake that, right? It has to be real. And so you make sure that the culture includes a lot of joy. We invite all of our players' kids to come in after every game. The family room is right behind our practice floor. And after every game, win or lose, the doors open up and the kids run out and there's pickup games. It's my favorite part of every game. It's just because the players come out and they've just gone through this, incredible competition. Sometimes they're elated, sometimes they're devastated. There's all these kids out there running around playing. That's joy, right? And that's going to happen whether we win or lose. And so the values that you hold true to yourself have to come alive to form a culture.
Where does your joy come from?
Where did my joy come from?
Where does your joy come from?
Yeah, I was incredibly lucky growing up in a great family that, so I was very, very happy. My dad was a professor at UCLA. I loved sports from the very beginning. I'd come home and, my dad put a hoop in the driveway. My brother and I would play, and we'd go to the UCLA games, and I lived in a great environment and was very fortunate. Had everything I needed and loved my life, and I don't know. I've just been very lucky, and I've been able to do what I love for my whole entire adult life. That's a lot to be joyful about.
I love that. You guys have led teams that have been very successful. The Warriors, very successful. And OpenAI, it's been amazing to see it continue to just kick ass for many years and just take on these giant companies and win. But you also have been leaders in times of great loss. The Warriors have lost many games. You've had some drama with OpenAI.
That's true.
Just a little bit. I think they're making a movie about it. So it's easy to be, I guess it's probably easier to be a strong leader and manager when things are going well, but talk to me about how you learned to be a good manager and leader when things were not going well, and what that kind of lesson was for both of you.
I think it's, I don't want to say easier. I find it especially rewarding to be a leader during the hard times. When things are going well, things are going to go well. You don't like, yeah, you need to like keep the bar really high and keep a sense of momentum and make sure people don't lose their drive, but it's kind of clear what to do. And there's like a lot of days where I feel like, yeah, I could like do this job or not do this job. The company's gonna be fine. And I could be hanging out with my kid, and it's like, all right, am I banging my head against the wall for no reason here? But there have been plenty of hard times, and I feel like that's where I've gotten the fulfillment of like, okay, if this were someone else, like maybe things would have gone differently. And when I like look back on the last 10 years, it's almost been 10 years of OpenAI. I remember like the big victories, the like amazing research discoveries, and then I like remember how I showed up at the hard times, and I'm proud of those. And I don't know what actually one thing I have learned is two things that I've learned. One is being calm when things are not going well, like it's like well more than half of the what works. And just like showing up and saying, look, even if you're like, hey, I have no idea how we're going to get through this one. This seems really hard. But we figured out a lot of hard things before, and it's going to be okay. Everybody can like take a breath. We're going to figure this out. If you can show up that way in hard times as a leader, I think that's like more than half of it. And I think that does have an immediate calming effect on the whole team. And then also, this may be different in sports. In business, when things are not going well, that is the worst time for like the big inspirational speech. And I used to be an investor, so I would like work with all these founders, and you see a lot of companies go through horrible shit, and a lot of the first-time founders in particular would have this like dream in their head where they were like gonna be the sports coach and show up and give their team this like big inspirational rallying speech, and it was all gonna turn around, and that really doesn't go over well. I think during hard times, what a company wants is like clear, focused, no frills execution, and you just like get back to work, you do the thing, you like grind out the momentum, and then you can give the big speech later if you want to.
I agree with Sam. I think leadership is most important when things aren't going well. And all the values that I was talking about before, the most important for the time for those values to come out is when you're actually losing, right? Otherwise it's fake. Everybody's happy when you win, right? So, joy is one of our values I talked about. Competition is another one. Compassion is another one. So we had a season about 5-6 years ago. I know you remember this well, but we.
Why? Why you got to do that?
Sorry.
I like it.
We had the worst record in the league. This was about 6 years ago. Everyone either retired or got traded or got injured, and we were wiped out. And so we knew we were in some trouble, and I knew that our values had to remain strong, but what also has to happen, to Sam's point, the players need a vision. What are we doing? Like, we know it's going to be a long year, so what's the point? The point was, we've got a bunch of young players. This is going to be a year of development, and we're going to get ready for next year and the year after, because everybody on earth is going to go through this stuff in every business, right? You have success, you have failure. So you always have to be planning and working for the time when things start to climb, right? And so that year was really dedicated to the perspective of the players. Like, understand what this is about. This is going to be great for your careers. You're going to develop. You're going to get a lot of playing time that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, because all these other guys are injured. We're going to lose some games, but we're going to get better. And I was really proud. Near the end of that year, we ended up having to trade 4 or 5 players because it was basically to save money. And usually if you have the worst record in the league, everybody can't wait to get out of there. And they all, basically like 4 of the 5 came to me and said, I really don't want to leave.
Wow.
I was really proud, in a weird way. I just felt like that means a lot. Like, we've set a good tone here, even when we suck.
Wow.
You know.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it made me feel good.
Stay calm, stay cool, look towards the future. Don't give a big inspirational speech.
And a clear vision is also one of, I think that is, if there's like a single thing I've learned about leadership overall, not just in bad times, if you can set a very clear, like ambitious but barely achievable vision that everyone can hold the whole picture in their heads and their role in that, that is super powerful.
Well, let me ask you about your vision. So I feel like obviously ChatGPT has brought a lot of amazing good and potential good into our world. The potential to cure diseases, the potential to, greatly democratize and make accessible information, get rid of a lot of work that is kind of administrative and menial that kind of takes time from people. This morning, I use it to help make a frittata. And I asked it, should I use a cast iron skillet or a non-stick? And it gave me the various, options. And the frittata didn't turn out very good, but
We'll keep working.
But also, there's all these potential negative ramifications, right? There's lots of people losing their jobs. There's the environmental impact powering all these power stations. That's not what they're called.
Data centers.
Data centers. And there's also like the potential for our human society for just becoming super lazy and forgetting how to think for themselves. So the question for you is, at what point do the ends stop justifying the means?
I'm never a big ends justify the means believer. On the other hand, and also I should say, I don't think this will be an only good story. I don't think we'll look back in a few decades and say, AI was a pure force for good. We're happy with everything that AI brought into the world. I think we will say it was a big net good, like a huge net good, in the way that if we look at previous technological revolutions, most of us are not happy with everything, every consequence that fell out of them. But most of us would not turn the clock back 1,000 years and have none of this either. So the trick with this is always, how do we get as much of the good as possible and as little of the bad, realizing that some of the really bad things are going to look like good things for a while and vice versa. And it's just this like messy forward path through technological progress. But rather than sort of like a philosophical thing on the good and bad of technology and how we try to make the decisions there, I think human desire for being useful to each other, more and better stuff, the fulfillment of creating for each other, like silly status games, to be a part of a community and contribute in whatever way we're going to do it. Like, this stuff is not going to go anywhere. It may be that what we think of as jobs in the future are very different in terms of the day-to-day. It may be that the socioeconomic contract has to change very dramatically, but that's all been happening for a long time. There was no such job as basketball coach 500 years ago. There was no such job as AI company CEO 50 years ago. Both of us could choose to stop working and do a lot of other things, and we keep doing it because we get whatever fulfillment we get out of this. But if somebody from 500 years ago could look at what we do, they would say, that's not a job. Like, you got too rich and you got like bored and society has coddled you and this is like a joke. Like, you're just trying to entertain yourself, and that's fine. And I hope that we feel the same way about people 500 more years into the future, and that they're way more fulfilled and happier and living better lives than we are. And this is what I think is going to happen. But there will, of course, be negatives along the way, and hopefully what we get to do when we look back at the sort of OpenAI impact on the world is say, hey, stuff is better. Like, we push stuff in a good direction.
How will you know if you've reached a negative tipping point?
By tipping point, you mean like,
There's just much more bad than good. And while we hoped for it to be net good, it just isn't.
one thing that's unusual about AI is the magnitude of how bad things, like it could go really wrong.
Awesome.
And so,
Okay.
and by the way, like I am very proud of how well the field in general has done on AI safety so far. If you rewind the clock back to when the first language models came out and look at what people said about we're never going to be able to get these to behave in a certain way. They're going to just be, doing all of this totally uncontrollable, not doing what users want. Like, we have made good progress so far, but that does not guarantee good progress in the future. And also, like, this technology is like a major scientific discovery, but it is like a fundamental property of matter. And so other people can use it for lots of stuff. Maybe it was very hard to figure out, but now there's going to be lots of powerful AI in the world, and there are going to be some bad people using it for bad things. My hope is that there's way more good AI that can counteract the bad, but we've talked about this one a lot publicly. I think it's an example that gets the point across. If you have an AI that can be used to cure a bunch of diseases, which is clearly great, probably you can use that same level of biological knowledge to create very novel pathogens, like really bad pandemics. And it only takes one person or a small group of people to create one really bad pandemic that maybe all the good in the AI in the world has a hard time defending against. There's other examples like that too, but the thing I worry about, there's a lot of things I worry about, but one of the things I worry about a lot is just these asymmetric cases where this crazy amount of power that's going to be accessible to anyone, even if almost everyone uses that on Earth for tremendous good, which I believe they will, you can imagine like the magnitude of the bad things being pretty tough.
I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask you a kind of version of this question, which is, you mentioned good, that there'd be net good in the future of this tool and how it grows. How important do you think it is that you are good? Because you are making judgment calls as the leader and the founder of this company based on your own, right? Your own kind of viewpoint of the world and your own version of what is good and what is bad. And I've known you for a long time. I know you to be a good person. But how important is it that you are good? And do you know if you're good?
I think very few people would not think that they're like a good person for whatever their definition is. So how would I know that I would point to like the track record of stuff we've done, but there are all of these ways in which what any company produces are somewhat of a reflection of the leaders of that company. And I can look, I'm happy, I'm proud of the decisions we've made with ChatGPT, but I can look at some of the more controversial ones and say all right, that is a reflection of my worldview, even if that wasn't intentional. It's I hired the people, in a meeting I said, let's do this. I kind of set our company values, whatever. So I do have these moments where I look at something in ChatGPT and say, yeah, that is a reflection to some degree of my worldview. I think I'm one of the few CEOs that can totally truthfully say I am far from the most important person in the company. This is an unusual thing about research, and we talked about this, where it's these few researchers have just this completely outsized impact, and I can see their reflections in different parts of it too. But clearly, my worldview and moral sense of the world has some fairly significant impact in the products we release, the policy decisions we make, why we'll say ChatGPT will do this and not do this. And I try really hard to make good ones. I made plenty of bad decisions too, but.
Yeah, I was thinking about you. I was reading about the pornography adult thing, and I did wonder. I was how much was Sam involved in that decision?
No, so that was one of my dumbest not the decision. The decision was good. And the way I communicated that was one of my dumbest mistakes of the year. So we recently we're adding age verification to ChatGPT, And one of our principles is that we want to treat our adult users like adults. One of the biggest complaints about ChatGPT is when it doesn't let you do something, or you say, I'm not allowed to say that or whatever. And everyone, or I think most people, can understand why, when we can't differentiate well between kids and adults, we put a bunch of restrictions on ChatGPT. But then if you are a verified adult and you're trying to use the tool and it won't write something offensive or violent or whatever, you get rightfully annoyed, in my opinion. I think that if this tool is going to become such an important part of people's lives, individual empowerment, giving users a huge degree of personal freedom, is an important core value for us. I'll save you the long rant, but I really believe that technology needs to service users and do what they want. We can have some limits on it for things where you'd impinge on the freedom of others, or the rights of others, but in general, that's like a quite important principle. And I think that's an understandable principle. It's not the one everyone would make, but like this technology, if we are right that this technology is going to have such an impact on the world, I personally wouldn't feel good making this sort of morality decisions. Now, I also think you can fairly take the point that pornography should be allowed to exist, but the New York Times should not have a front page full of pornography, and that's kind of how I feel about ChatGPT. But if you really want it to, do whatever, and it's not hurting other people, I think we should allow it. I wish I had used a different example.
Than pornography.
Yes. I think the principle...
You done did it, so there you go.
Oh, well.
Coach Kerr, I'm giving you...
Great.
Pornography. So you're known as a coach that is also a very good person. You feel very menschy to me. Do you know what menschy is?
Say that again.
Mensch?
Okay.
Of
course I know the term mensch. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, you seem like a mensch to me after hanging out with you. And one of the things that's kind of somewhat unique about you, it seems, is that even though in the game of sports, in the world of sports, most people tend to try not to involve social justice and politics a lot, you have made you've run towards it. You've actually gone out and.
Thank you.
You've taken stands on issues even when it might be risky. And so my question to you is, why do you think that you stand exceptionally in doing that? And how do you choose when you get involved in a certain issue, when you say, this is something that it's important enough to me that I have to say something?
Yeah, well, I realized, after my first year or two here that I had quite a platform, and I probably should use it for something good, And so I played for a coach in San Antonio, Greg Popovich, who was the first coach I knew who really spoke out on social issues, and he really inspired me. And if you think about sports, well, not you, but people who follow sport. Sorry. There was a period in the 60s during the civil rights movement where there were athletes who were so prominent in the movement. Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, heroic Americans. You know Muhammad Ali? That name?
Girl.
Okay, sorry. So Muhammad Ali was a boxer.
I know him.
All right.
We're gonna watch some sports together.
Okay,
we are. Go to some games, and you're gonna teach me everything.
But no, there have been times in the sports world where athletes and coaches took on a pretty big role. More athletes than coaches. There weren't a lot of coaches that really kind of did that. But Greg Popovich inspired me. I was inspired because I lost my dad to gun violence, and I realized I had a platform, and everyone here understands, most Americans understand, in fact, probably 80+% of us understand that we don't have common sense gun laws that we should have, right? So, and that's not just true in San Francisco, it's true across the country, right? But because of politics, we don't actually ever get where we need to go, and so people are dying every day. And so I realized I have a platform. This is something I'm passionate about. I know what people feel like when they lose a family member. And we were having these moments of silence week after week at our games before the national anthem. The Pulse nightclub massacre. One after another. The Pittsburgh synagogue. It was, and there was a string of them. It felt like over during the playoffs in 16. There were like 3 in about 2 weeks. And the first one you stand there and you go, well, this is a nice thing to do. I'm glad we're doing this. And the second one you go, man, like this happened again, and we're just going to do this. By the third one, you're pissed off. You're like, when are we going to do something about this? So that's what inspired me. I spoke out. I quickly made mistakes with phrases, words. I got a lot of pushback from people on the other side of the issue because I had used, terms that maybe weren't appropriate. And so I did some work. I went and started working with Brady, and I learned a ton about how to have this conversation, about using the term gun instead of gun control, gun violence prevention. Nobody wants to be controlled. Mm-hmm. The detail of what's happening legislation-wise. I just went to school and started learning all this stuff with the Brady group, and it's kind of become my pet project. And I really do believe that over time, we will get to a place where we're going to save thousands of lives every year by installing common sense safety measures, just like we did with the auto industry. People may not know this, but we reduced auto deaths by 90% since the 60s.
Wow.
And it's pretty easy to figure out why, right? Seatbelts, car airbags, car seats for kids, drivers, speed limits, driver's licenses, registration, all this stuff, right? We didn't take anybody's car away.
Yeah.
So we can do the same thing, but it's going to take us. It's not going to be the people running for office who are being run out of an election based on where they stand on that issue. It's going to be us. It's going to be the people in our country just insisting that we do something.
Yeah. Just a quick follow-up on that, and then I want to move to you for a second. That feeling of standing there time after time and trying to make an effort on an issue, and then going from, I'm glad I'm doing this, to, well, this is annoying, to frustrated. I feel like a lot of Americans, and I certainly feel this way, that hits very much close to home. It feels like so many of the issues we care about are being blown up right now and torn asunder. What advice or what coaching might you give to someone in the audience or someone listening here who's watching the state of American politics and thinking like every issue that I care about is under siege, right, and feeling hopeless?
Well, number one, the pendulum swings, politically all the time. The pendulum swings socially. There's a lot of issues. I mentioned the auto industry. I mean, the gun industry is probably more like the cigarette industry because so many people were dying smoking cigarettes, but it was really hard to actually shift the narrative. But the narrative shifted, right? Who shifted the narrative on people dying from drunk drivers? Mothers Against Drunk Driving, right? People out there who decided we've had enough. And then it's a movement. But the only way for the movement to really happen is for people to actually get involved and insist. And then the magic has to be captured. And we don't really know, how that happens. It's like everything else. I'll bet you never really knew that you were going to, create this incredible company. I never knew I was going to, coach the Golden State Warriors. Like, we don't know what's ahead of us. But when we put in the work with something we're passionate about, and as a society, as a community, we put our minds to something and show up, things change. And there's a whole history in our country of that happening.
I just want to take you and put you in my pocket and pull you out when I'm feeling hopeless. Let's talk about money for a second. So my best friend Rob told me this morning, I think, at Phil's. He was like, did you know that when OpenAI became a for-profit, I think, did that happen already? Or it's happening?
It's more complicated than that.
She's
but
shifting.
Sure.
But like part of doing that is you created an OpenAI foundation, and it's like now the 5th largest foundation in the world or something like that.
We hope it will be the biggest.
The biggest. Okay, can't be the 5th. You got to be number 1.
I mean, we're gonna try to work really hard. Yeah.
Okay, fine. How are you thinking about how all that money is going to be used for good, and where does San Francisco fit in that picture?
The first, so we want to try to pick things where, like, the intersection of what's happening with AI, a lot of capital, and sort of the greatest impact on society where we can find the sort of maximum of that. The first thing we decided to do was health. I think AI is already just starting and will get much better at being useful to scientists, and that we can see a world where AI plus a lot of computing power can cure or treat a ton of diseases. And obviously this would be like, this is an easy one. This would be tremendously positive for the world. And I think it's actually gonna happen. If we are right about the trajectory of the technology, like, this one feels within grasp. The second category we decided on was what we call AI resilience. Just, it's not only safety, it's also the economic impacts and how we help the world manage through this transition. And I think that there will need to be a lot that we do and that others support of work for that to happen. We'll do more over time, but I'd like to really get these 2 right first. And then for San Francisco's our home. I think San Francisco's, I don't think it's an accident that the AI revolution happened here and that many more cultural and technological things of note will happen here. So, we want to be great neighbors, and we'll always do what we can to support the city.
Why did it happen here?
In my previous job, I ran this startup firm called Y Combinator, and I would go all around the world, and people would say, will you open Y Combinator in my city? Or, we don't need Y Combinator, but we're gonna make startups happen here. Or some people would say, what about San Francisco is it? Why does this stuff happen here? And I would try to explain it, and I would never get the spirit of it through, but I think you can draw a straight line from the cultural freedom of San Francisco to the fact that so much technology was invented here, and everybody wants one without the other, and it doesn't work that way. I really believe that you don't. Thank you. But I would lose the plot as soon as I would talk about the importance of a culture that could produce Burning Man to a culture that would make a lot of great startups. So I eventually stopped trying. But you don't get to pick and choose freedom. You either have a culture that really supports it and loves it and lets all of the weirdness of San Francisco happen, and you also get the sort of technological creativity, economic freedom of people being able to quit companies and start new ones, and that all goes together, and I don't think that happens in the same way anywhere else in the world.
It does feel like that, and it is so liberated and so free and so wonderful, and it's why we love it here. It's also a city of such stark dichotomies. It is the most beautiful and joyous and wonderful city, but there is also so much pain here. And I guess I wanted to ask you a question about money and wealth. Jensen Huang, his net worth went up by $17 billion last week. In 1 week. And I know it's on paper, but still, $17 billion. I was trying to imagine what that looked like, and it was the same week that 42 million Americans were losing their SNAP benefits, right? So you have $17 billion that this one man's net worth increases at a time when 42 million Americans are likely to go hungry. And I guess my question to you, and then would love your thoughts on it, what does it mean about the world we live in that that's even possible? And if you believe it is a wrong, what is the responsibility of the ultra-wealthy to make it right?
First of all, to state the obvious, I don't think Jensen is the person to blame for people losing their SNAP benefits. And I think what Jensen has done for the country, the world, the economy is like really wonderful. And I'm like, great, get super rich. I assume you'll do good things with it for the money, with the world, for the world with the money. However, I do think that if you worked super hard and got lucky and benefited from a society that has like built up this incredible infrastructure around you, you should pay it forward, and I'm sure he will. I think creating great technology and great companies is a great thing to do on its own, and I applaud anyone who does that, and I think driving forward the economy is a great thing. And I think you should then use your power and capital and whatever else you want, if you'd like, to do whatever you can to make, the world a little bit better, in addition to all of the great work you have done building your company. Not everyone who makes a ton of money goes on to do good things with it, but a lot of them really do. And, I hope we'll continue to see more of that over time.
What do you think?
Oh man, I see the prices for a Warriors game, and I think about going to Dodger games with my dad and my brother growing up in Los Angeles, and it was $3 for a ticket in the bleachers. It was $1 for parking, and we would bring tuna sandwiches and a lemonade jug with us. It was a $10 day, right? And that was, it was very doable for a college professor to take his boys to a baseball game. But you go to a game now, like, it's insane, right? And this is true across the sports world, especially here, obviously, because of the team and the economy here. There's so much money here, so yeah, we can charge, really high prices. But it doesn't feel right. I went to a few Valkyries games this year. And
I know who they are.
You know who they are. And it was like, you could tell it was a different crowd. The tickets weren't so expensive, right? Like, I think it was much more affordable for families to go to a Valkyries game. And you could tell that there was a different vibe in the building, and it felt good. It felt, like good. I'm glad these people can come to a game, because I'm guessing a lot of them can't come to a Warriors game, and that feels lousy. The thing that I think about is, and I'm obviously not an economist, but the economy is so slanted against the younger generation. We finished college. If you graduated from college, or you had a trade, 30, 40 years ago, you could buy a house, and you could get a job and support a family, and think how important that is to community. And I think about this all the time. I have 3 kids who are 2 in their 30s, one 27, 28, and don't tell him I didn't know how old he was. But it's like, for them to buy a house, compared to what it was for us and my generation, that's like one of the saddest things that I think about our current status of our economy and our country, because it just doesn't
work.
It doesn't bode well for our future, and it's so many people are now struggling to make ends meet, and so this enormous wealth at the top end. And I'm blessed to be part of that, just coaching basketball of all things. But it feels weird. It doesn't feel like our country is, heading in the right direction with this wealth gap and the disparity.
We're getting closer to the end. Just have a couple more questions. But before we kind of move on to that, don't you guys have a role to play in that? I mean, it feels a little bit like, couldn't you? This is just sisterhood right here, okay? Just us. Like, if you wanted to make it less expensive, like, couldn't you pay all the players, like, not $50 million or whatever to play the game and, like, make it just, I mean, I'm not trying to accuse you, but, like,
No,
isn't
no.
there, like, you guys are both leaders of these two industries, right? So if you wanted to make it more affordable to go to a basketball game, like, you're Steve Kerr, and you, Sam, I mean, like, you know all these people, right? And, like, they respect you, they make money from you, too, like, what is your, like, couldn't you make it
It's a great
better?
question. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the honest answer is the machine is so big that I don't think any of us can stop it. 20 years ago, we wanted no part of Las Vegas and the gambling industry. Today, NBA games and NFL games are sponsored by the gambling companies. We have sports franchises in Vegas. We'll probably have an NBA one there soon. This machine is so massive that I'm, you know, if I want to go to the NBA leadership and say, hey, I think we should lower prices,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to
You
pay much attention to me.
patch me in, or whatever you call it. What do you call it?
I'll just, yeah.
Push me in there.
Group text, you
Yeah.
and Adam Silver.
I'll get in there.
Steve touched on what I think is the single biggest policy I would somehow love changed, that I think would make the biggest difference to what it takes to succeed in America, which is housing prices. I'm definitely not like a single issue voter on this, but I think that is the dominant thing, that if we could somehow fix that, if we could somehow make it so that you could, like, you know, graduate from school and buy a home and start your family on like a normal salary, that would have a huge positive impact on society. I don't think either of us can make that happen. There are things that we can do, and I think we should, and I can, you know, keep trying to make ChatGPT cheaper and better, and, you know, help people do more stuff and make more money. And, you know, it's maybe not quite as rewarding as people who email in saying, like, hey, ChatGPT saved my life with this medical diagnosis or whatever, but it's pretty rewarding when people write in and say, like, ChatGPT helped me start a business, and I'm, you know, achieving these things I never thought of, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And, like, there are a lot of things we can push on, but I think the economic system, starting with housing and a lot of other ways, is so deeply screwed up. I'm sure if either of us knew how to fix that, we would stop what we were doing and go fix that. But I think that's really hard. It's hard for us anyway.
Well, on housing, you did just create like a super mega foundation, so you could
Think about, no, this is,
you could build some of them. You know, you could do it seriously. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, it doesn't take
Yeah.
necessarily.
this
you could be
is-
the 5th largest foundation and still make a dent in housing.
this is a really important point. How much do you think it costs to build affordable housing in San Francisco?
$1 million a unit.
So you can go figure out how many units we could build if we did
You could
nothing
change
but
politics,
build
though. You
units.
could make it.
That's what I think it takes. The problem is that it costs $1 million a unit
Yeah.
to build the thing.
Yeah. To be continued. Before we get to because we could be here all day, but we don't have all day. You both have teams you have a game tomorrow, and you have world to change tomorrow again. Before we get to the last question or two, I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to just open question to each other.
Oh.
Like, head hits the pillow. What's the thing you've always wanted to ask each other?
Well, I mean, I have a question
I have one
for
too.
you.
Go ahead.
So, you know, how can AI help the Warriors win a basketball game? Specifically, how do you think it has the potential to change sports going forward?
When you were talking earlier about how quick the game is changing and people are figuring out new strategies, I was wondering how much longer it was going to be until we had an AI that could, like, watch every game, simulate a bunch of strategies, and say, here's the next thing, here's what you should go do.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not that far away.
Right.
And it would be cool if you did that before the
So the last 10 years or so, we've we've really incorporated analytics into our preparation. We have all the numbers that we could possibly have on strategy, lineup combinations, five-man combinations, every combination of players. We know the value of that, the ratings, offensive, defense. But the one thing we haven't gotten to is in-game usage of that. We can come in with the knowledge, like, hey, this group might do well against SEC, but actual live, AI use in a game to make a substitution, to call a play, maybe that's where it's heading. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That should work. All right, my question, I spent a ton of time thinking about what I can do to, develop a good researcher into a great one, or a good engineering manager into a great one. What have you learned about how you do that for a basketball player that might apply to my world?
Well, I think the best leadership that our young players have actually comes from our older players. So I can share a vision with the young player about the player he wants to become, but the partnerships that they form within the group are the most powerful relationships and influences. So I don't know if you have that same dynamic where you have some experienced, but it takes, I think, really special people who really take joy in helping the next person, take that step. And because people who take joy in it tend to be really good at it. And that's what I've learned about coaching, is that if we can have a whole roster of players where the older guys are mentoring the younger guys, it's really, really powerful.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
That was
you.
beautiful. I chose, you may have wondered why I wanted to bring both of you here, and obviously it was not to wow you with my understanding of basketball, because if it was, I failed. But the reason I did is because I have a lot of respect for you both. You both are leaders in your industry, and I know you to both really love this place and to be very committed to San Francisco, undeniably. Why? Why are you committed to San Francisco? Why do you remain committed to this city?
I kind of already gave my answer. I wanted to live in San Francisco my whole life, and when people like sometimes at like a cocktail party or something, like, oh, what's your favorite city? And someone will say like, oh, like London's so great, but Paris is more beautiful, but Tokyo's all this shit, and they drop all this like impressive, and I always say like San Francisco by far, and it's not close. Like it is. I mean, it has got to be physically the most beautiful major city in the world and have the best weather. And those are not even in like the top 5 best things about it. I think the culture here and what that has created, even through hard times we have been through, and the sort of spirit of this place, like I can't imagine wanting to live in any other city.
How has being a father changed your experience of San Francisco?
There's no other city I would move to, but I will say I think about like moving to the woods so my kid can just like run around and have trees.
You better not.
No, it is.
I will come for you.
I mean, I think cities are amazing for adults, but for little kids, maybe not the ideal thing. So I think about that. That's hard. But I think I think I'll
keep that idea in your head. Okay.
I want my kid to like run around in nature.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can go for the weekends to nature.
That's what we'll do.
Yeah. What about you?
I love the city. Have you guys read Season of the Witch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so when I moved across the bay, I used to live in the Berkeley Hills, which I loved. I had 2 kids who went to Cal, go Bears, and we fell in love with the area right away when I moved here. And a lot of it is the physical beauty, the natural beauty in every direction. A lot of it is the interesting people you meet every single day. There's so much going on in this city. And having grown up in Los Angeles, and I love Southern California, but let's just say I like the beach down there, and I like the culture up here. There's so much more going on up here. This feels like, having grown up down there, I didn't know much about San Francisco, but I lived in Chicago for a while. I got to know New York really well. This feels like an East Coast city, but in the most beautiful place on earth. Like, it's a real city. I drive across town every day to Chase, and this is a city of diversity, of amazing food, of natural beauty, of incredible people.
Hear that, natural beauty?
It's awesome. It is awesome.
It's true.
So, I love it here. I don't want to go anywhere else.
My last question. Got one last one. We had our dear mayor come and give us his now very famous rah-rah. And, the city has been through a series of rough patches. It's been tough. It's been hard for San Francisco, especially the last 5 years. But it does feel like the city is at a turning point. It does feel like the city is trending in a much better direction. You can clap for that. Which is awesome. So I guess what I would love to end on tonight, from two people who have invested so much, and frankly, guys, part of the city's positive turnaround is due to the company that you've built and the team that you've built. So thank you for that. The team that I love so much. What is your vision for San Francisco looking forward that doesn't just meet its potential but exceed it?
I think the mayor's doing an unbelievable job, and is a reminder of how much impact leadership and great policy can have on a city, and I hope we'll get a lot more of it.
What's your vision for how the city can not just meet its potential but exceed that potential?
Well, I mentioned the book, Season of the Witch, and the history of this place. There's just been incredible highs and lows and ups and downs, and I think some of it is that creative freedom that you were talking about before, Sam, and so we're on an upswing, and there's so much potential here because of the people here, because of the history of the city, because of the innovation, the creativity, the free-spirited nature of this place. And we need to lean into that. We need to embrace that. But we also need to offer a helping hand to the people who are suffering. And it's really tricky, right? Anybody can say that, and I didn't want that to be just a throwaway comment, but it goes back to what we were talking about before with the economy. So what can we do? We can actually embrace this idea of housing in our neighborhoods, right? Like, it's really easy for all of us to say, like, hey, we got to build more, got to build more housing, but not here, down, because that's kind of what happens all over this country, right? So if we really want to live by our values, our progressive values that have defined this city, then we need to actually change progressive politics to reflect that and not put so many roadblocks in front of these things that could help the people who are suffering, if that makes sense. So.
The coach of the Warriors, Steve Kerr, and the CEO of OpenAI, Sam fucking Altman.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Group hug, group hug. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.